Hello, everyone. Welcome to our portfolio class. I'm Pia Bergholz, and I'm going to be your instructor for this mod. This is mod 7 of 2019. This design class is starting off a little funny. I think I've gotten some messages from several of you that your class didn't show up as it should be in the beginning, so I'm not really sure who has access. I didn't see anybody come into the classroom yet for our live session. So I decided I'm still going to record some information for you because I think it's important that you're able to get started as soon as possible. But we'll also have another live session on Thursday evening, and I hope that everything will be resolved by then and that some of you can come in here to the live session and we can discuss some of the things that we're going to be working on this module. But anyway, welcome to the introduction of DES250, your portfolio class. This is an exciting time for a lot of you. I know that some of you are preparing to graduate and others are going on to bachelor's programs. But this is a really kind of culminating course where you're going to start putting together your professional portfolio. So, this is not your regular design class, okay? So just to prepare you a little bit, and we're going to go over more of what this class is all about here today, but you're not going to create any new projects. The assignments are going to be running and they will build on one another, so it's going to be very difficult if you fall behind to try to get caught up. So this is a very important class to kind of be able to start right out of the gate, so to speak, because most of the time that you'll be spending on the projects in this class will be critiquing and receiving critiques and refining your work. So you're gonna have to leave your ego at the door. I'm going to be pretty tough and pretty nitpicky on your projects that you're going to go through and revise for this class. But I'm doing it for your own good, so to speak. I want you to be able to put your best foot forward when you are done with your portfolio and be able to be competitive with other students and designers out there. So we are going to be working on past projects that you have done in your 100 and 200 level classes, and those are the ones that we are going to be working on and that you're going to be refining and revising until they are in tip-top shape for your portfolio. So the more you do in this class, the more you'll gain, and it's really a valuable time and opportunity for you to just be able to focus on your past projects and practice skills that you have learned since you did those projects on them, which is a really, really good way to practice your design skills, but also it's kind of cool to see how far you've gone from some of those maybe 100 or 200 level projects, and take a new look at those and see, if I was given this project now, what would I do? Would I approach it differently? Would I use different images, different colors, different fonts? Would I lay it out differently? How would I approach this project? So the grade in this class, it's important. Grades are always important. You want to do your best. But the most important thing is that you end up with at least 6 projects that you can stand behind in your portfolio and that will show your design skills up to this date. Just as a little heads up, there might be projects from your previous classes that you got A's in. And so you might think, oh, then they're perfect. There's nothing I need to do to these projects. But that's not quite true. Sometimes you can get an A on a project just because you're fulfilling the requirements for that class. And the requirements for the 100 level classes or even some of the 200 level classes are not necessarily professional grade, right? We understand that you're in school and that you're learning software and that you're learning design principles. So you can be doing your best on a project and get a good grade on it, but it still is not professional grade, and it's still not something that you should necessarily show in your portfolio in that condition. So that's kind of what this class is about, is taking all of those projects, pushing them to the next level, making sure that they look professional so that you can be proud of your portfolio and you can go out there and be competitive as you're looking for work or trying to get clients. So like I just mentioned, some of you are graduating, some of you are continuing with your bachelor's degree, but either way, this is going to be the start of something new for you. Even if you are continuing with a bachelor's degree, we hope that with at the end of this class, you can still use your portfolio to maybe solicit some side work that you can do while you're in school, maybe apply for internships, or just continue to work on it with your own goals in mind, and working on creating specific kind of pet projects that you want to have in your portfolio. All right, so what is a portfolio? And I've used this word over and over again, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows. Hopefully you have already started a Behance portfolio, that you have started to fill up with projects and talked to your FPA about some of these projects. But a portfolio is basically a visual assembly of your work as a designer. It shows your skills. It shows both what you can do with the software skills and your design skills, your eye for design, the style of design that you tend to do. And it's really what gets a person hired in the graphic arts industry. Sometimes, you know, the degree is what's going to get you maybe considered for a position. Some companies won't even look at an application unless you have some type of a degree. But what really is going to matter is that portfolio. And I would say that somebody with a lesser degree but a stronger portfolio usually has the upper hand over somebody with a higher degree, but that does not, where their portfolio does not show quality work. I even know some people that just put their portfolio online and have been able to get followings that way and job opportunities even without a degree. But the job market is a little bit different if you are just soliciting yourself online. But that portfolio, that really is kind of the main ingredient for success in this industry. Well, that kind of answers that question. Why do you need a portfolio, right? Because if you think about it, if somebody wants to have designer work for them, and they get your resume and they see a list of things that you tell them that you can do and the degrees that you have, certificates that you might have, but that doesn't tell them much, really, right? People can claim to have certain skills, but what really matters is showing those skills in real life and being able to show people what you're capable of. So without a portfolio, you're kind of dead in the water as far as the design career goes. So, so it's definitely worth you spending time on it. And most professionals continue to work on their portfolio throughout their career, revising it and going over it every so often, maybe yearly or even semi-annually if needed, to make sure that it's updated and they have good, strong projects in their portfolio. So that is something that as a student, you definitely need to continue to work on your portfolio even after this class. This is not like an end class. You know, you create your portfolio and then you're done and then that's it. You want to continue adding work to it. You want to continue to refine the work that's in it. And it's kind of a living, breathing thing that's always in progress. So some people are wondering, okay, what should be in your portfolio? And if you search that question on the internet, you're going to get a bunch of people that tell you, oh, you should have X amount of pieces. You should have this and this and this and this. And what really matters is what it is that you're trying to do with your portfolio. What kind of work are you trying to get? So the best portfolios are usually catered to the type of work that you want to do. But maybe at this point you're just thinking, oh, I just want to do design. Whatever I can get my hands on is what I want to do. Then it's pretty important just to kind of have a well-rounded portfolio that shows the type of design work that most people are looking for. So they're going to look for something that shows how you handle images, how you handle text, whether that is in a print format or a web format. Something that shows your creative thinking skills, you know, that has some ideas in it, things that show a continuity in a campaign, so that you have several pieces that are for the same product or service in a certain campaign, so they can see that you know how to handle visuals in a consistent manner across different deliverables. Like maybe, you know, something is a website, something is a banner ad, something is a printed part of the campaign, but all of these need to feel cohesive. So that's something that's good to have in your portfolio. And also series of things, you know, instead of just having one poster. If you have a series of posters that are related, then that can also really show your ability to create a consistency or a flow across several pieces. So, and we'll talk more about that as we start going through your portfolio pieces in this class. I might give you suggestions to just you know, add companion pieces to some of the things that you already have if they don't need too much revising. So all of you should have your Behance account by now. And I hope that you have uploaded the projects that you have done since DES109 for each one of the classes that has required you to do so. That should give you a pretty good cross-section of the type of work that you have or should have access to. We do use Behance here at the school because it is the industry standard, and it is something that is connected to the Adobe portfolio, and kind of a quick and easy way to have your work look professional and be able to be noticed by the kind of people that you want to show it to. There are other kind of platforms and places that you can join or show your work in, like LinkedIn, and we also have Portfolium here at the school now that is kind of connected to all of this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those later. But most of all, like I just said, it's all about putting your best foot forward. So during this class, we might go through and what should I say, sift out a little bit of the work that you have in your Behance. The final product of this class should be a polished Behance site that has your updated projects in there, that shows them off in a professional way, and has a little bit of, commentary to each one of the projects, and then also a Adobe portfolio site, so that you have two links that you can use as you're going out to try to spread your work to the world. But you got to be careful because, like I said, if you have pieces in there that show poor execution of basic skills, that will actually harm you rather than help you, because then people will see your weaknesses rather than your strengths. So you want to make sure that all of the pieces that you put in your portfolio really highlights your strengths. And you might also want to be careful about putting too many what I call non-commercial projects. That would include your own photography or your own illustrations or drawings or anything like that, because unless you're going into digital illustration or something very narrow like that, it's going to kind of dilute your portfolio, and you want it to look kind of professional and commercially viable. So the most important thing, sometimes people will feel like, oh, but this, I created this all by myself and I'm very proud of it and things like that. And I understand that. I understand having an emotional attachment to some of the work that you do. That's kind of normal, but it is also really dangerous. As a professional designer, you kind of have to try to put your feelings on hold or in the background and put the things forward that is going to show you in the best light generally and to the people that you want to attract. So it's more important that the whole, like the website or the projects look well designed and look professional than that it's unique or your own, so to speak. So some of the things like the Adobe portfolio is kind of a template that you will use, but I still recommend that unless you have some really super sharp web design skills, you use that Adobe portfolio to show off your work. All right, so let's take a quick look at the course in general, just a quick overview so that you know what to expect, and then we'll go into some more details about this week's work. So for these are kind of the discussions, and assessments in this class. Everything in this class is assessments. There are no assignments, so to speak, which means that it's kind of going to be up to you to do the work that you need to do on these assessments. I will be helping people and giving you tips and all that kind of stuff, but you're not going to get any step-by-step demonstrations from me because everybody's going to be working on different projects. Okay, so for week one, you're going to be doing an elevator pitch for the discussion. This is just a way to kind of get used to talking to people about yourself and introducing yourself and your way of designing to somebody and your skills. For your first project, you need to get feedback from your FPA so that you can then start revisions in week two. So it's extremely important that you're able to get that project feedback this week, and we'll go over that assessment in detail here in a few minutes. You're also going to start a resume draft, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on Thursday. I'm kind of going to divide things up right now to make sure that you get started on that FPA project first of all. Then in week two, you'll be discussing how to present yourself in the discussion, and we're going to do round one of revisions. So, I think we have a pretty large class, so I might be dividing things up a little bit when it comes to the revisions. We're kind of just going to have to go by feel on that. But it's going to be super important that you either attend the class or watch the recorded session, because that's where you're going to be given your feedback. And you will also learn a lot from looking at other people's projects and either, good examples or things to avoid, or even my feedback to other people. There's usually people that have kind of the same issues going on. And so you can learn from comments that are being made on other people's projects as well. And then in week 2, that's the big revision week, because you're also going to do revisions on your resume and your cover letter. And then in week 3, you're going to be doing a self-assessment, which is an important exercise to be able to kind of critique yourself or assess how things are going on your own. And we're going to continue the revisions of your projects. And you're also going to dig into how your skills compare with the industry needs, to kind of focus on what you need to do more of, or where you're sitting good as far as getting out there in the design industry. And then week 4 is going to wrap up with us talking about networking strategies, finalizing your portfolio, creating mock-ups of the projects that you have finalized, making sure that you have mock-ups of all of them, and then customizing your portfolio. All right, so you can kind of see that each week builds on one another, and you can't really skip anything. You can't really skip the steps. So it's important that you're on board right from the get-go. And stay on the train, right? Keeping up with the course. So, like I just mentioned, weeks 2 to 4 will include critiques in class. So you need to have things submitted in order for me to give you feedback. If you're not submitting things, then I'm not going to be able to show it in class. And they're going to be class critiques. I'm not going to be able to give individual critiques to everybody in the class. So they're going to be class critiques, but they're always anonymous. I don't necessarily worry about giving out names unless you're in the class and you don't mind and you say something. I try to look at projects in a very objective way that way, and we are just going to look at them as projects and see what is working and what is not working, and finding out why so we can fix it. So this is kind of tentative, again, depending on how things are going and flowing. Monday sessions, I'll do usually a weekly overview and start critiquing. Wednesdays, we might throw in a critique in there as needed, depending on, because I don't want the sessions to last too long. I'm aiming for like an hour and a half max for each session. And then Thursday sessions, we'll do reminders and example suggestions, other things, and continue with the critiques. So make sure that if you miss a week's critique, you can't make up the points for that week, because I can't like go back and have another critique just for you. So you need to be keeping up with the different critiques. And that's why I have 2, so that I can critique work that's being sent in on time, but by Thursday, I can also critique any work that has been sent in late that week. So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but after that, then it's kind of just too bad, so sad. You need to have a 61% to pass the class, and also keep in mind that you need a 2.0 GPA to receive your diploma if you're graduating with your associates after this class. But most importantly, you need a strong portfolio to get hired. So grades, diplomas, all of that kind of stuff aside, this class is important just to get you prepared to get some work. That's why we're all here, right? That's why you're going to school, is so that you could get a different kind of career and some side work, or whatever your plans are. when it comes to the media and resources, we have some in the class, but they're not going to be super specific from week to week, maybe a little bit. But there's going to be kind of also a selection of videos that you can go and look at in lynda.com and Adobe and other places, depending on what it is that you're working on. So for example, if you're working on a trifold brochure and you're trying to get some issues fixed there with the way that it flows or something, you might need to go watch a video on designing a trifold to get some information and help and ideas and tips on that. And I will be pointing out some of these things in the critique. If you know, let's see, I'm not really sure how many people are in the class. Let me take a look at our roll here. But it looks like we have 15 people in the class. And so if we do 15 times 6 projects, that would end up being, I need a calculator for that. So let's do 15 times 6. That's 90 projects. So you can understand that I'm not going to be able to go through all 90 of these projects and pick apart and tell you guys exactly what you need to fix and all of those kinds of things, and help you fix all of those things in each one of the projects. Okay, that's just not possible time-wise. So you are going to have to do some of your own help and demos and resources, and try to find those to kind of educate yourself and find some resources on ideas and things that you can do to improve your projects. I will, though, in the live session, go over some common issues that I might see in a lot of different projects and go over those. And I'm actually planning on recording those a little bit segmented so that you can go back and watch those when you need to. I also really encourage you to research and look at trends and current designs. I'm going to post in the announcements a list of blogs that you can go to research. You can also go to IAGA, of course, and Behance. But it's important to kind of get a feel for what current designs are looking like. Graphic design is a very trend-driven industry, and if your websites or your projects are looking outdated, you're not going to be impressive to prospective clients or employers. So you need to be able to keep up with the trends. It doesn't always have to be the very most newest, latest trend for everything. There is something to be said for classic design, clean design that is a little bit more timeless. But the worst thing is to have old trends that you're still kind of stuck on and you haven't realized that that's something that's come and gone, because then you're going to look outdated and nobody's going to be really interested in hiring you. So that is an important aspect of your work as a designer, is researching and staying up on current trends. All right, so let's take a little look, a quick look at what you're going to be doing this week. Just to clarify some things, especially for assessment 1A. Assessment 1B, I'm going to go into detail on Thursday. Okay? So let's see here. I'm going to share my other screen with you guys here. All right, I hope that's working fine. All right, so first of all, let's just dig right into week 1. I hope by this time all of you guys are familiar with where you can find your different things in the class. My information is right here, and about the instructor, our live session links and recordings will be posted right here and on the live session page. You'll have to, let's see, I'll just click on here to make sure you guys all know where to find that. Scroll down, and then they will be posted right here under the different weeks. Then we have the readings and videos with all of the different resources here that I'll be going over for each week with you in more detail. Also remember to check the announcements often. So far there's not a lot of announcements here, but I'm going to be posting a lot more information as the class goes on. So you want to be checking that and maybe even scrolling down to look at older posts so that, you know, because you'll have some good resources in here. And if you haven't already, please read the welcome announcement and also this announcement right here that has just some information about contacting your FPA, which I'm also going over right now in the session. All right. So in week 1, excuse me, we're going to evaluate a little bit on who you are as a designer. Again, thinking about the kind of projects that you want to have in your portfolio and how to present yourself and introduce yourself as a designer. So it's a little bit of a time for reflection. I think, you know, take a little minute to yourself and think about you know, what your goals were when you started, you know, a year and a half ago, what your ideas of design were, why you started this program, what the kind of work that you were hoping to do, if that has changed along the way, or if you are still kind of set on the things that you started with. Many people kind of start to realize new things about graphic design and about themselves as they go through school and the program, and that's kind of what it's all about. So actually the introductions that are right here, that's kind of the question in here in the introduction. How have you changed and how do you feel about the program now versus a year or so ago when you started taking design classes? So go through and think about some of those questions, and I would really like to have you share those with me right here. My post is not necessarily maybe so much relating to that, except for I just wanted to share with you a little bit on how I got started in the industry, my first jobs. Because one thing that you might want to think about too is, even if you have very specific goals, you might want to be open to doing something that's not exactly your dream job right away, and how that can lead you to an ultimate dream job, and just give you good experience along the way. So that's kind of what this first week is about, is evaluating yourself, your who you are as a designer, what type of projects you want in your portfolio, and what kind of things you can put on your resume. So this little 1.5 minute video is a little example on what an elevator speech is, and that's what the discussion is all about this week. So I actually posted it right here in the first discussion post as well, to be sure that you watch that. There's also some information here in the background of this, and some pointers, you know, like, and it's called an elevator speech just because it's about, it should be about 30 seconds long, and it should be something that you could deliver to somebody while riding an elevator for a couple of floors, right? But it's also a way to practice just introducing yourself to other professionals and people that could lead to something else, right? Networking is what this world is all about in a professional sense at this time. In our country or in our world in general, is just making connections. You never know. The most happenstance times and places, you might be able to make connections with somebody that's going to lead you to a job or some projects or some interesting learning experiences or whatever it might be. So you need to be on the lookout for those, and you need to be ready so that you can jump on those. And that's what this little elevator speech is going to help you do. So you want to say as little as possible. You don't want it to be long-winded and lose people. You need to be concise. You need to have very specific verbiage that you decide on that's going to express who you are. It's always helpful to kind of really have a focus of the type of work that you want to do, because then that kind of makes you seem more focused and interesting. And you also want to emphasize your own problem-solving skills. Now, problem-solving skills is a super valuable trait that employers in all kinds of industries are looking for. And designers have kind of an upper hand in that, because all we do is problem-solving, like solving visual problems, right? We have a message that we need to communicate, and we have limitations, and we need to be able to get that message across in a creative way. So that's kind of what we do. So those problem-solving skills can really get you get some interest from all kinds of different industries that you might not even have thought of. So this prompt is a little bit different. It says that you are attending an IAGA conference, and between sessions, another designer confronts in you that they are not confident talking about or promoting themselves. So they say their life is boring, and they try to get out of a conversation as quickly as possible. So given this person some advice, in your discussion, tell them how you would describe the concept of an elevator pitch and why you think that that is an important part of being a designer, is being able to communicate with people like that. Maybe give some personal examples as well. If this is something that you struggle with, this discussion will be a good time to kind of talk about that and maybe get some ideas from your fellow students. All right, so that's our discussion. I look forward to seeing posts in here, and I will try to contribute some other interesting information that I will post in this pink color so that you can kind of pick that out and find that easily. And I hope that that will be helpful to you, and that you can kind of use that to drive the discussion a little bit. All right, so now let's talk about the assessment, since that's kind of the most urgent assignment this week, and one that cannot be delayed. It has to be done this week. This is your assignment about contacting your FPA and getting their feedback on 6 projects from your portfolio, or that you're going to be working on in your portfolio, okay? Well, you can read through this background. I'm not going to read through all this background information with you, but it kind of helps introduce you to thinking about what projects you could or should use. But the most important thing is that you contact your FPA and you meet with them. And it doesn't have to be a live meeting. It doesn't have to be on the phone, or it doesn't have to be in Zoom. It's always good if you can do that, but as your FPA is also busy and probably teaching classes and has a lot to do, you might not be able to coordinate a time where you can meet live. So in that case, emailing back and forth will work as well. I know a lot of FPAs also record feedback and send you a recording that can be helpful. But what you need to do is find, like I said, 6 projects that you're going to send to them so that they can give you their feedback in a PDF format, because that PDF is what you're going to submit for this assessment. And you're also going to submit a little report, so to speak, a written report of your meeting with your FPA, what kind of stuff you guys discussed, and your strategy, you know, thinking about how you're going to go through this and approach this class. And please feel free to ask any other questions or concerns that you have about things in that little written summary as well. And that can be questions that you ask your FPA or questions that you have for me. Like I talked about when we looked at kind of how the live sessions are going to go, we might, with 15 people in the classroom, we might be dividing things up and taking, you know, working on 3 projects at a time or something like that, just so that our critiques are not going to become overwhelming. But that is something that I'm going to have to evaluate once I see what you guys are turning in this week. Let's see here. So what projects should you be using? Well, I am going to post this little graphic in the announcements as well. This kind of gives you an outline of some of the projects that most of you have done in your classes that you can use for this class. So you have, if we start with DES250, it's a CD insert and menu. I don't think there is a CD insert in the, depends on how long ago you took this class, but you should have a menu either way. So that is a good project. Again, these are commercially viable projects, the type of projects that are very likely that you could be asked to do for a company or a client. In DES109, you have your graphic design handbook. I'm a little bit iffy on that. I don't think that that is as a commercial of a project, but if it is something that shows, really shows your strength as far as your design skills and your color skills and typography skills, and it's a really creative and well-designed project, then it could be a good addition. From DES114, you probably have a trifold brochure from the Kayak Aqua Excursions Company, and a poster to go with that. And that is, again, a good combination, good connection between 2 different pieces for the same company. And those trifold brochures are also very, very common printed projects. So that is a good one to include. DES209, you have a campaign presentation. Again, that is a good type of project to use. DES214, you might have some web design mockups. In DES240, an infographic or a kiosk design. The Muse site is not really going to work for this class as far as putting it in Behance. So that's something that you might want to just discuss with your FPA on the side. DES242, you probably redesigned a logo, and that project you could push a lot and do something more with that company logo and create a really strong portfolio piece out of that. DES243, the magazine layout, that is an excellent example to show how you handle information, images, text, layout. It has a lot of different components that employers are usually very interested in seeing how you can handle those. There is the packaging design project, which again shows versatility. There is actually quite a bit of work available in packaging design, and that can be a good diverse project to add into your portfolio. In 245, you might have a billboard, postcards, again, depending on when you took that class. The projects may have changed a little bit. But again, anything that shows several different pieces from the same campaign is a good and usable project. The animated advertisement, again, I think you can upload actually videos on Behance, so you could use that if you want to, but it's going to be a little bit harder to go through and show your FPA in a PDF, okay? So along with these, if there's other projects that you feel very strongly about, that you feel are strong things that you could use, I think that there's a typographic poster in DES250. There is a social campaign poster that you could have created in your first Photoshop class. Any of those projects could be a good start that you could push and develop further in your portfolio. I think there's also a wedding announcement that you might have done in your typography class, something like that you might be able to use as well. So, but go ahead, pick 6 or 8 of your strongest projects that you run by your FPA, and that way you can get their feedback and they can help you select the 6 strongest one. Now, if you don't have 6 projects, if let's say you just lost some of the files, you lost some of the work, you're not able to retrieve it and find it, well, then you have to talk to your FPA about that and come up with a plan on what other projects you could create from scratch to fill in those gaps. You will pass this class even if you don't have 6 projects. You will not get as strong of a grade, but I do need you to have at least 4. Otherwise, it's, your portfolio really doesn't feel like much unless you have 6 is really the minimum, but you could pass the class with 4 projects. But so again, quality over quantity is important, but if you are stressing out over finding 6 projects that you can work with, get in touch with me and we can meet about it and talk about it and we'll work something out, okay? Communication is going to be extremely important in this class because that's what it's all about. It's about me giving you feedback, me being kind of mentoring you, helping you, getting your resume and your portfolio up to snuff. So if you're not talking to me, I can't help you. So super important that you contact me. You can email me, you can text me, you can send me messages through Canvas. We can meet one-on-one in Zoom or over the phone, but we are going to have to set up a very specific time for that because I have a very crowded schedule this module. Okay. So the steps are also listed here. Compile the projects and make sure that you have the original files for these projects because those are the ones that you're going to need to make the revisions. And by original files, I mean like a Photoshop file, an InDesign file, an Illustrator file that you used when you created the project. And I would recommend that you take those original files, put them in a separate folder on your computer so that you know where they are. You know, name the folder DES250, put all those different projects in there so that you can find them when you start creating the revisions. You're not going to send those original files or native files to your FPA though. You're just going to send them the PDFs so that they can make little notes on that and go through them and look at them with you. Another thing that I would recommend, now for some of these projects you might have submitted a PDF file for the final project, and that PDF file could have included things like mock-ups or creative briefs, you know, those kinds of things that were part of that assignment. Those are not really things that you're, well, mock-ups you will be putting in your portfolio, but not yet. Because if you're going to revise the project, you also have to update the mock-up, okay? And so what you are going to want to go over with your FPA is the flat of the project, as we call it, which is kind of just the basic project, not mocked up on a t-shirt or a billboard or a bottle or anything like that, just the project itself. Because that's kind of what you need to see to be able to critique things carefully. When things are mocked up, then they are like distorted a little bit, they're wrapped around stuff. Sometimes it's hard to see the details of the type or the images, and sometimes just depending on if the mock-up is good or bad, it kind of distracts from the project and the design of the project itself. And that's what we're really going to have to zero in on, at least to begin with, to make sure that your project itself and the design itself is solid, and then you can put it on a mock-up after that. If the PDFs are too large, you might have to resave them. I'm going to, on Thursday, or maybe I'll even try to record a little video tomorrow that I can post that show you some tips on that, on making sure that your PDFs are not too large. And then putting them together in a multi-page PDF. It looks like part of my text here in the slide disappeared. So I will have to kind of post that separately. I think I will do. I'm just thinking here, I'm sorry, because I think that's something that a lot of people will have questions about. So I'm going to do a separate little demonstration and video on that I will post in the announcements. So our next session will be Thursday at 7 p.m. We're going to talk more about assessment 1B then, the resume, talk about some examples and things like that. I'm going to check in on your FPA contacts, and we'll talk more about creating the PDF that you're going to submit for assessment 1A. Okay? So if you have any questions, please let me know. I know that you know, some of you might still try to get access to the class right now. So that's why I will try to take some time tomorrow to record a little bit of different information. So stay tuned. I'm not quite sure yet when that's going to be and how I'm going to fit that into my day tomorrow, but I will try. And so I will be sending out a message so that you can join live if you'd like to, but it will only be a quick, maybe 15 minute or so meeting. All right, so I'm excited to be on this journey with you and start your portfolio. It's going to be a great ride. It's going to be a fast ride, and it's going to be a fun ride. So hold on and let's get going. There's going to be a lot to do in the next 4 weeks, but I hope it will also be really rewarding work for you. All right, I'll see you next time.